Tatum, listen to me. He's trying to find another way in. We're gonna do this together. You're gonna have to shoot him through the wall. Where? To the right of the door. Shoot him now! Do it now! Oh, you got it. He's dead. You need to make sure you shoot him in the head.
I'm gonna burn it all down.
Mother!
This is gonna be fun.
Welcome out there, YouTube land and all social media lands. Welcome to an all new video. In this video, we're doing a movie review of a new film that just came out the end of February and is a 7th film in a great series that started back in 1996. So we're gonna get right into that. Before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss this video and the other videos I put up. As always, people, if you enjoy my content here on YouTube, definitely check them out on the social platforms, just X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Patreon. Pretty much posting these regularly, so definitely check them out. As always, let's get right into this. So welcome one and all to an all new video. So like I was saying before, doing a movie review of a new film that just came out the end of February and is a 7th film in a great series that started back in 1996 called Scream 7. Yeah, Scream 7. Yeah. So who would have thought 30 years later we'd be on the 7th installment of this franchise, of this film series, of the original Scream from 1996. And, you know, going all the way into 7 films later, you're just kind of like, wow, where else could they take this? And once again, they proved to me that they could take it somewhere that I didn't see. And the whole thought process on this film, I thought was kind of interesting. I thought it was a decent idea. It definitely had some things that really pulled my interest and stuff like that. But overall, the film just wasn't the greatest, I thought, compared to other Scream films. But overall, I think the film was still very entertaining, enjoyable, and a decent addition to this franchise. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of great things in this film. I think that it had some really great gags. I thought it had some really great action sequences. I thought it had some really great kind of like tying some loose ends, kind of adding some loose ends, stuff like that I thought they did interestingly. And I think, you know, taking over from what the last 2 films did, you know, they had to revert back to a previous storyline. I thought they did a pretty decent overall job of bringing that to life. Now, this film has to be directed none other by a gentleman that goes by the name of Mr. Kevin Williamson. Oh yeah, Kevin Williamson. Woo, Kevin Williamson, yeah! So you might recognize Kevin Williamson as the writer of the first 4 films. You might recognize him as a writer of several other films over the years. And he really is a very prolific writer, screenwriter and stuff like that. Really hasn't dabbled too much into directing. He has directed before, but this really technically is only his 2nd directorial feature film on the big screen. And, you know, Kevin Williamson, I think, has a very creative mind. I think he's written a lot of great films over the years and has made some really great things. And I think what he did with this film was, you know, wasn't too shabby, wasn't too bad. I think he could have taken it in a little bit of a more different direction, given us a little better, you know, accompaniment to the film. But overall, I still think he did a decent job. He gave us a very entertaining film that I still think was enjoyable and a great addition to this franchise. Now, if you haven't seen anything Kevin Williamson has directed, his only other directing feature film is a great film that came out in the early 2000s or late 90s called Teaching Mrs. Tingle. Yeah! Teaching Mrs. Tingle. Yeah! So this is a very interesting kind of like thriller horror film, and I just remember from it that, you know, I thought that, you know, Kevin did a decent job with his directorial debut. Thought he made a very different, interesting film that is kind of bizarre, kind of out there, but at the same time has a lot of great, interesting things to it that make it entertaining and making you want to check it out. And I think it's got a decent cast, and I think Kevin did a great job of writing it and directing it and giving us a very good, solid first directorial debut that I think, you know, goes down as one of those films that it has kind of a cult following type of deal. And I think it kind of shined in on kind of what, as a director, Kevin Williamson is working with, and I think he brought some of that over when he directed Scream 7. If you haven't seen anything else, Kevin Williamson has directed, check out Teaching Mrs. Tinkle. See what you think. What do you think of his directorial debut? But overall, I thought he did a decent job with this film, with Scream 7, and I think that, he could have done some things different, he could have made it a little better, but overall, I think he did a good enough job to make it an entertaining and a good addition to this franchise. If you haven't seen anything Kevin Williamson's directed, go check out Scream 7 in theaters. He did a fantastic job. So this film has a really great cast, several people returning from previous films in the franchise, with a lot of newcomers coming into this film. We're introduced to, of course, Sydney's daughter in this film. We're introduced to a few new people and stuff like that, which is really fun. But I think overall they do a really great job that's very interesting and fun, and I think all of them really bring to life their characters and give us a very entertaining film. Now, to start us off is none other than Sydney herself, Miss Neve Campbell! Oh yeah, Neve Campbell, woo! Neve Campbell, yeah! So Neve Campbell, of course, you might recognize from the original Scream. You might recognize her from a slew of other things over the years, Wild Things and so forth. And, once again, she's reprising her role of the great Sidney Prescott, which is really great. Glad we finally got her back for this 7th one, which really stinks that we didn't get to see her in 6. But overall, I'm glad that she finally returned for 7. And once again, she provided a really great, newer version of Sydney. I like that this film really kind of shines on where her life is at now, where she's kind of how she's differentiated herself from the previous films, and kind of, how she's different and how she's aged and how she's, very cautious and all this kind of stuff. And that's still, deep down inside, she still is the same girl that we saw in the first couple installments. And I think that overall, I think that she just really, once again, really provided a greatness for Sydney and gave us this really great performance that, was really enjoyable and fun. And, great to see her again portraying Sydney and giving us more history to that great character that she started back in 1996. Now, if you haven't seen anything that Miss Neve Campbell has been in, definitely a great film to check her out, and that I think is an underrated action thriller film that came out a few years ago. That I don't think she gets any credit for how good she was in it. It's a great film that came out in 2018 called Skyscraper. Yeah! Skyscraper. Yeah! So Skyscraper is a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson film where she plays his wife in the film. I don't know why I wanted to say husband, but no, she plays the wife. And basically it's about this giant skyscraper thing that basically, ends up exploding in a certain spot, and basically they have to figure out how to stop it from blowing and get out of there and save the day, basically. And she plays, of course, The Rock's wife in the film. And I think she was really good in this film. I really enjoyed her. I thought it was something different versus her playing Sydney all the time. I thought she did a great job portraying this wife character, and she was really solid in it. I really thought that she did a good job of bringing to life that character too as well, and really shined her great acting ability, and really shined too in becoming something that was, very alternate to Sidney Prescott. And I'm sure a lot of people, I feel probably, basically connect her to Sidney Prescott. They probably are, looking at her other films and going, how much is she like Sidney in this? Like, basically comparing. And it's just too bad, because I think that, she has a lot more talent than she does as just playing Sidney Prescott. And so I thought this film really shined that and showed that. He gave us a really good example of what else she can do and be really entertaining and fun too as well, and add some great additional character to a film. If you haven't seen Neve Campbell, definitely check out Skyscraper. She did a really fantastic job in that. But overall, she was fantastic in Scream 7. It was great to see her again. But overall, I think that, her character arc and all that kind of stuff was just a really great kind of extension of, what we previously had her at. That they did a good job of giving her even more and shining on that and giving us an idea of where actually Sidney Prescott is at. If you haven't seen Neve Campbell recently, go check her out on Scream 7. She did a really fantastic job. So that brings me to the next actress I like to talk about that was in this film. And that is none other than Gale Weathers herself, Miss Courtney Cox. Oh yeah, Courtney Cox. Woo, Courtney Cox, yeah! So Courtney Cox, who is the only actress of the franchise that has been in every single film so far, once again reprises her role of the great Gale Weathers. You might recognize her also from Friends. You might recognize her from a few other films over the years. You might recognize her from a few other shows she's done, Dirt and so forth. And, she is an okay actress. I think that she's not the greatest, but I think overall she does a decent job playing Gale Weathers. She always is very interesting as Gale. She plays that character to the T, and you just kind of hate her and love her at the same time. And I think Courtney does a great job of bringing that character to life and giving us this really great fun. And once again, this is another character that we get that, the story arc is kind of altered and moved forward and given us a little more information, like how she's doing with the death of Dewey, how she's doing with her current position and job, like kind of where she's at. And it was great to finally see kind of where else she's at, because if you think about it, in the last film, you really don't know much about what she was up to. You know a little bit, but nowhere to the extent I feel that was in movie number 7. And I think Courtney Cox did a great job of just bringing that to life and giving us some great Gale Weathers stuff that was, interesting to see just where she's at, and so much fun that, could have been a lot worse. But I think that Courtney did such a great job of, giving a great extension to that character and, building on that story of that character and that, character's arc, that I think she really brought it together and gave us a decent performance in this film. Now, if you haven't seen Courtney Cox or anything, definitely a great film to check her out in. It's a great film from 1994 starring Jim Carrey called Ace Ventura. Yeah, Ace Ventura. Yeah, absolutely love this movie. Absolutely love her in that film. She plays a great love interest. She plays a great character. I think it really kind of is a different role for her. I love that it was more of a comedy role. It was a little different. She still kind of played it serious. And she kind of played the same kind of character as kind of like Gale a little bit, close to it, and other characters she's played, even including in Friends. But overall, I think that she was really fantastic in this film. I thought she was fun. I thought she was hilarious. I thought she was a great addition to Jim Carrey in that film. And I just think she really was a great love interest, too, that was fun to watch and see at a very young age in her acting career too as well, and just see kind of how she's changed and altered since making that film. And I think Ace Ventura is a great design of that, showing that she had some pretty decent comedic chops that really lended her to her in Friends, but also I think kind of lended to her in her Scream journey as well. If you haven't seen Courtney Cox, definitely check out Ace Ventura. She was absolutely superb in it. But overall, I thought she was decent in Scream 7. I enjoyed her. I thought she was, fun to see again. And I liked what they did with her story arc and giving her a little bit more information to really kind of push that character along now 30 years later. If you haven't seen Courtney Cox on anything recently, go check her out in Scream 7. She was really superb. So that brings me to the final actor I'd like to talk about that was in this film. And that is none other than a returning person that we haven't seen since the first film. And that, of course, is Mr. Matthew Lillard. Oh yeah, Matthew Lillard. Woo, Matthew Lillard, yeah! So Matthew Lillard, once again, portrays Stu Macher. And, of course, you might have seen Matthew Lillard in other things over the years. He just recently was in the Five Nights at Freddy films. He's been in a whole bunch of films over the years. He's just a really fun, comedic, and dramatic and fun kind of actor. He's always great in anything I've seen him in. He's always enjoyable. And getting to see him return as Stu Macher was absolutely fantastic. And the one thing I disliked about this film is that it wasn't really Stu. And I was pissed that they did that. They brought him back, made him, if you haven't seen the film, AI. And it's just stupid. So I would, if you haven't seen the film, don't listen to this part for a moment. But I just really was pissed that that's what they decided to go with. I'm still hoping that, there is a shred of truth that Stu is still alive, and that, he actually will return in the next one, and we'll see that he's behind everything over the last several years, and stuff like that, kind of like Roman in number 3. But overall, I think, Matthew Lillard was absolutely fantastic with what he brought to the life. I loved what he did. I liked how he looked. I liked how he presented Stu, how he made him seem after 30 years. And I think that overall, it was just really great to see that character again and just see Matthew Lillard bring to life such a great character that we all have been rooting to still be alive. And I think that, overall that character just has a lot of great potential that could have lead into something else. And that's one thing about this film series is that there's so many things that they could change it to, move it towards, and, that they're pivoting towards, and that they're kind of cluing us in on things, because there was a lot of things about 7 that made no sense. And Matthew Lillard's character was one of those things that just didn't make sense in the general sense of, besides being related to Sydney, it didn't make sense that these people would be interested in using him, especially when he's a character from 30 years ago. So, there's a lot of things about the character that I think that are clues to let us know that it's going to be a future thing in the next film. And I'm hoping that's what it's all about for Matthew Lillard here, because he just really was superb in what he brought to it, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought he was really great to see again as Stu. Now, if you haven't seen Matthew Lillard or anything, definitely a great film to check him out, and that's a great kind of like thriller horror film that came out back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Is a great film that I think is very underrated, called The Curve. Yeah! The Curve. Yeah. This movie is absolutely epic and amazing, and I absolutely love Matthew Lillard in it. He was so damn good in it. And it really shined on how good of an actor he is, not in a comedic sense, but in a great kind of like dramatic sense. And he played that character to the T and so well and so amazingly. And I love the whole roundedness of the character and how well he developed it and really shined his acting talents in that film. And I just think the film itself is really superb too. And his acting just really added to that and gave us this really great performance that I just really enjoyed. If you haven't seen Matthew Lillard or anything, definitely check him out on The Curb. He was really phenomenal in it. But overall, I think he was phenomenal as Stu again in this, what brief time we got him for. And I'm really hoping to see more of him in future Scream films. But overall, I think that this is a really great portrayal by him. And just a really great addition to this film. If you haven't seen Matthew Lillard recently, go check him out in Scream 7. He was absolutely epic. Just want to shout out a couple other people that were in this film that were just fun to see again. And new people that joined us. Of course, we had the great Mason Gooding pop up in this film as Chad again, and he was absolutely epic and fun in this, along with his twin sister that we had in the previous two films as well. It was great. I love that we had the return of some other greats throughout this film as well that we hadn't seen in a while, but at the same time I think there were so many other people that was so much fun. I love that we got to see McKenna Grace in the film. Thought she did a great job. I really enjoyed her character at the beginning of the film. I really enjoyed seeing many other people, kind of new people come in and kind of give us these weird, interesting characters that you kind of liking, but at the same time you're like, okay, them getting killed, that's fine. Maybe down the road, maybe they will still be alive. Maybe, who knows? You never know. But also the great Joel McHale in this too. I love seeing him in this, and he did a great job as Mark, and he was really enjoyable as the husband of Sydney in this film. Just want to give those guys a shout out because they were just fun additions to this film too. But alright, so what is Scream 7 about? Basically the premise of the story is Sydney is living in a town in the Midwest, basically, living a life free of Ghostface for many years now, and all of a sudden she gets a call and it's Ghostface, and he's returned, and basically they're saying that they are Stu Mocker, and basically the rest of the film is about her trying to figure out if this is really Stu, and kind of who's actually behind this, and saving her family and saving the town from another Ghostface attack. And it was just a really fun film, really enjoyable, super entertaining. Not my favorite of the series, but overall a decent, entertaining film to add to this collection that was really fun. I think it was really decently done. I have to give this one 8 golden movie boxes up. I thought it was decently. I thought the bad guys in this one were pretty pathetic, but overall I think that it was definitely still a very entertaining film that had a lot of great things to it. If you haven't seen it yet, go check out Scream 7 in theaters. Worth the watch, people. Will be added to collection, and just an overall fun film. So that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, also thank you for subscribing. If this is your first time here, or you have been before, don't forget to check out any older new videos if you haven't seen mine yet. As always, people, if you enjoy my content here on YouTube, definitely check out my other social media platforms as well. As always, please, huge shout out to my subscribers, new and old. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. As always, if you really want to help out the channel, help support it, make it grow, make it bigger, please check out my Patreon page and think about becoming a member. Because once you become a member, you get access to all kinds of extra crucible that helps out this channel to make it bigger and better for you. So definitely check that out. As always, catch you next one.